LinkedIn presents.
Uncertainty can feel awful in part because we've been told that we should reframe it into something purely positive. This is not only unreasonable, but a surefire way to increase suffering during an already challenging period.
Happy Wednesday, friends. I'm Michael Kovnat, and this is the Next Big Idea Daily, quick masterclasses from the best new books written and read by the authors themselves. Don't forget to hit follow in your podcast player and sign up for our free newsletter using the link in the episode notes. Now, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but life is uncertain. The future, by its very nature, is unpredictable. And when you're trying to plan out your career, your finances, your relationships, that lack of certainty can get pretty stressful. Today's guest is Elizabeth Weingarten, a journalist and behavioral scientist who spent years thinking about how we face and sometimes fumble through life's biggest unknowns. In her new book, she invites us to stop trying to conquer or embrace uncertainty and instead to love the questions themselves. Because the truth is, the way we navigate the unknown shapes not just our decisions, but our very relationship with ourselves. Her book is called How to Fall in Love with Questions, A New Way to Thrive in Times of Uncertainty. And Elizabeth joins us to share her key insights right after this quick break.
From LinkedIn News, I'm Leah Smart, host of Everyday Better, an award-winning podcast dedicated to personal development. Join me every week for captivating stories and research to find more fulfillment in your work and personal life. Listen to Everyday Better on the LinkedIn Podcast Network, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
From LinkedIn News, I'm Jessie Hempel, host of the Hello Monday podcast. Start your week with the Hello Monday podcast. We'll navigate career pivots. We'll learn where happiness fits in. Listen to Hello Monday with me, Jessie Hempel, on the LinkedIn Podcast Network or wherever you get your podcasts.
Forget about, quote, embracing uncertainty, end quote. There's a better way to thrive in the unknown. You know those self-help ideas that sound good in theory but disintegrate under the pressure of real life? To me, telling someone to, quote, embrace uncertainty, end quote, is one of the biggest offenders. Try giving that advice to someone who's struggling with questions about their marriage or wondering how to survive the death of a loved one or fearing the results of a biopsy. There's another, better strategy, loving the questions. To learn about it, let's travel back in time to February 1903. This was when Austrian poet Rainer Maria Rilke received a letter from 19-year-old aspiring poet Franz Capus. It kicked off a years-long correspondence that became Letters to a Young Poet. This book has influenced thousands of people since it was first published in 1929. Like many 19-year-olds, Franz Capus was bursting with questions. He posed many of them to Rilke. Instead of giving him answers, Rilke writes, quote, I want to ask you, dear sir, as best I can, to have patience about everything that is still unresolved in your heart. Try to love the questions themselves, like locked rooms, like books written in a truly foreign language. Don't look for the answers now. They cannot be given to you yet because you cannot yet live them. And what matters is to live everything. For now, live the questions, end quote. At this point, you might be asking yourself, how is loving the questions different than embracing uncertainty? Here, it helps to know a little more about Rilke's take on love. In another letter to Capus, he writes, for one human being to love another human being, that is perhaps the most difficult task that has been entrusted to us, the ultimate task, the final test and proof, the work for which all other work is merely preparation, end quote. It is essential, he writes elsewhere, to, quote, trust in what's difficult, end quote, to turn towards rather than away from the challenges life presents to us. Just like sustaining a committed relationship can be both painful and rewarding, loving the questions acknowledges that communing with uncertainty is evolving, frustrating, delightful, stultifying, and freeing. That's not only okay, it's expected. It's what we all experience. Uncertainty can feel awful in part because we've been told that we should reframe it into something purely positive. This is not only unreasonable, but a surefire way to increase suffering during an already challenging period. We're living in one of the most difficult moments to tolerate uncertainty. Around the world, the norms of government and public life are under siege and falling fast. Deep fakes and misinformation overwhelm social media. The growing threat of climate change, seismic shifts promised by innovations like AI and biotechnology, intensifying political polarization, and mushrooming global conflict seem to point to a similar conclusion. We're in an accelerating age of uncertainty. With our smartphones in hand, we've never had access to more information about the uncertainty of the world. At the same time, we've also never had more access to fast, easy answers to our questions. According to research, we're getting worse at tolerating uncertainty, and there may be a link between smartphone penetration and this atrophying skill. We're biologically wired to want to reduce uncertainty, so it's seductive to seek certainty online. The problem is that many of us have become addicted to fast, easy answers sold to us by a group that I call in the book the charlatans of certainty. They often tie their promises directly to the deepest and most meaningful questions of the people who they want to pull in. And they're often purposefully lying or manipulating others into believing that they, the charlatans, have all the answers. We all know that ultra-processed junk foods aren't great for us. You can think of fast, easy answers like ultra-processed information, extracted and condensed to excite our taste buds, so we want to consume more and more. Charlatans of certainty often take information we want and need to improve our lives and then condense it and strip it of its nutritional value. What we get is the illusion of certainty on a complex topic, for instance, how to find a sense of purpose and meaning, and that keeps us coming back for more and more content. This could be in the form of a social media post or a weekend retreat or a never-ending series of courses. But ultimately, this kind of content leaves us feeling addicted, unsatisfied, and empty, and the only way to fill the void is continuing to pay for it or consume it. When we search for fast answers to our deepest questions, we're sometimes blind to what we're really seeking. Another reason that fast, easy answers fail to satisfy us is that they aren't really what we're after when we're scrolling on Instagram or watching endless streams of YouTube videos. In the book, I tell the story of Matteo, a 20-something in recovery for a technology addiction. He'd spent years consuming endless amounts of information online to resolve questions that the internet just couldn't answer. For years, he was unaware of the deeper reasons for his search. As someone who had experienced childhood trauma, he was desperate to control himself and his environment so he wouldn't experience that kind of pain again. He figured this meant becoming someone who knew all of the answers. As he spiraled deeper into addiction, he became lonelier and lonelier, more cut off from real relationships with the people around him as he sought information about how to forge deep connections on the internet. His discovery mirrored one that many others shared with me. And this was that their feverish search for answers and certainty was only partly about information. It was also about feeling less alone in the uncertainty and pain they were facing. What they were really seeking was connection and community. Your relationship to uncertainty is a reflection of your relationship with yourself. Part of the reason we might be blind to what we're really seeking when we search for answers is because we're disconnected from ourselves. In recovery, Matteo discovered something that echoed across my interviews. He said, quote, "When I'm at home in my own body and my own life, I don't need to know more than I know or be more than I am. When I can just accept reality and myself as I am, I can feel more at peace in uncertainty," end quote. Forging a stronger relationship with ourselves can result in a better one with uncertainty. Questions can help us do this, acting as a kind of internal GPS that can help us rediscover what we really want and need, what we really want to do, instead of clinging to what we think we should want or need according to the expectations of others. The act of loving your questions represents a commitment to listening and learning from yourself that leads to greater self-compassion and self-integrity. Loving the questions requires cultivating two virtues, patience and courage. Quote, "Patience is everything," end quote, Rilke writes to the younger poet Capus in another letter. The science of patience supports him on this. It's a critical ingredient to being able to tolerate uncertainty and love our questions. The word patient is rooted in the Latin word pati, which means to suffer, and fare, which means to bear. Patience is about waiting well while we suffer. It's about holding on to a difficult question without giving up on it. Luckily, there's a whole science led by psychology professor and researcher Sarah Schnittger to help us develop this skill and harness the uncertainty in our lives as a propulsive force. One caveat: patience is not by itself a sufficient tool for pursuing goals and breaking free from the paralysis of uncertainty. Sometimes we need courage. The importance of cultivating courage alongside patience is also borne out by research. According to researchers, courage is the virtuous sibling of patience. They counterbalance each other, encouraging us to stay somewhere between reactive recklessness and disengaged passivity. Patience and courage both help us regulate our emotions in the uncertain pursuit of goals and in the murky space of unanswered questions.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, everyone, you can get a copy of How to Fall in Love with Questions wherever you get your books. That's our show for the day. If you got something out of it, please leave us a rating or review in your podcast player so others can find the show too. And go to nextbigideaclub.com to find out about our hardback subscription club. That's where we send you the best new nonfiction books as chosen by our curators, Malcolm Gladwell, Susan Cain, Adam Grant, and Daniel Pink. Check it out at nextbigideaclub.com. I'm Michael Kovnat. See you tomorrow.